Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself climbing a narrow path through the Andes. The air is thin, cold, every breath sharp. Clouds swirl around your shoulders, condors drift soundlessly above, their wings casting shadows on cliffs that fall thousands of meters into the abyss. The mountain is silent until you hear it. The crunch of stone under your sandals, the wind whistling through terraces cut into rock. And then through the mist it reveals itself. Walls. Perfect walls rising in steps and platforms, polished blocks stacked so precisely that not even a human hair could slip between them. This is no ordinary ruin. This is Machu Picchu. A city in the sky, a whisper of a vanished empire. The Inca civilization was young by the standards of history. The Roman Empire had lasted centuries. The Maya flourished for nearly 2 millennia. The Incas? Barely 100 years before the Spanish arrived. Yet in that short time they built one of the largest, most sophisticated empires the world had ever seen. A realm stretching nearly 4,000 kilometers along the spine of South America, from the deserts of Chile to the jungles of Ecuador. And the puzzle is this: how did they do it? How did a people without writing, without wheels, without steel or iron, without beasts of burden larger than a llama, create an empire of 10 million souls that functioned with astonishing precision? That mystery still challenges us today. Let's start with the walls. Walk through Cusco, the navel of the world, capital of the Inca realm. Beneath the Spanish churches and palaces, you will see them, stones taller than men, weighing dozens of tons, fit together like puzzle pieces. Each block is unique, irregular, and yet together they lock into place as if fused. No mortar holds them. No machine cut them. And yet, 500 years later they still stand, untouched by time, untouched even by the ground itself. Because the Andes tremble. Earthquakes ripple through Peru regularly. Spanish-built cathedrals cracked, houses collapsed, but the Inca walls endured. Why? Their genius was not brute force but subtlety. The stones were angled slightly inward, their edges beveled, their joints so tight that the walls flexed with the earth instead of resisting it. Modern engineers studying them call it seismic architecture, centuries ahead of its time. The Incas had no rebar, no concrete, no CAD software, but they built cities that could dance with earthquakes and survive. Think of our own failures. Skyscrapers swaying dangerously in storms. Bridges collapsing from design flaws. Dams bursting. The Inca walls remind us that strength lies not in resisting the earth, but in listening to it. Now imagine traveling across the empire. The Andes rise in impossible ridges, deserts stretch endlessly, jungles choke with heat and rain. How do you hold such lands together? Rome had its paved highways. China had its silk roads. The Incas had the Capac Nan, the great Inca road system. Over 40,000 kilometers of stone-paved roads and paths crossed the empire. They climbed cliffs on stairways cut directly into rock, spanned rivers with suspension bridges woven from grass, and tunneled through mountains. Messengers, chasquis, ran these roads. One sprinted a short stretch, then passed the message like a baton to the next. In this relay system, information could travel 240 kilometers in a single day. Europe, with its horses and written letters, could not match this speed. The Incas ran faster with nothing but legs and lungs. Imagine a rope bridge hundreds of feet long, woven entirely by hand. No iron chains, no bolts, just fibers of ichu grass twisted into ropes thick as a man's body. Every year, entire villages gathered to cut, twist, and replace the bridge in a sacred ceremony. It was not only engineering, it was ritual. By making maintenance a festival, they guaranteed that infrastructure endured. Today, a few such bridges are still woven each year in the highlands, living echoes of Inca genius. But what about knowledge? How do you govern an empire without writing? Rome had scrolls. China had characters. The Maya had glyphs. The Incas had quipus, first glance. Without their emperor, without their rituals, the people lost the glue that bound the empire. The Spaniards destroyed the Coricancha, melted its gold, built churches atop its stones. But they could not erase the foundations beneath. The Incas did not vanish. Their descendants still farm terraces, still weave textiles with patterns older than Spain itself, still speak Quechua. Each June in Cusco, the festival of Inti Raymi still honors the sun god. Cloaked now in Christian symbols but alive. In remote valleys, villagers still rebuild rope bridges with prayers. Farmers still preserve potatoes as chuno. And satellites still reveal hidden terraces in shrines forgotten under pasture and jungle. The empire is gone, but its heartbeat endures. What then do we learn from the Incas? First, that technology is not only machines. It is also culture, rituals, obligations, beliefs that mobilize societies more powerfully than wages or laws. Second, that sustainability comes from reverence. The Incas treated soil, water, and crops as sacred. By embedding infrastructure in religion, they ensured it was maintained with devotion. Finally, that even the strongest systems can fall, not from weakness of stone or road, but from weakness of unity. Civil war and betrayal undid what no earthquake ever could. It is dawn at Machu Picchu. Mist curls through terraces, condors drift silently overhead. The sun rises and its first light pierces the temple of the sun, igniting the stone as though it were still alive. For a moment you hear it, the echo of drums, the murmur of prayers, the whisper of an empire that turned faith into stone, ritual into roads, and mountains into machines. The Incas are not gone. They remain in language, in terraces, in festivals, in the memory of mountains. The question is not whether they are lost. The question is, will we learn from them before we too forget how to balance our world between sky and earth? A quipu seems trivial. Strings of colored wool, knotted in strange patterns. Early conquistadors dismissed them as toys. But to the Incas they were the memory of the empire. Numbers, census records, harvest totals, labor duties, all encoded in knots. Modern researchers have discovered positional decimal systems in them, even hints of narrative structure. Some believe quipus may represent not just numbers but stories, a form of recording lost to us. Imagine an empire run by accountants carrying bundles of string, each knot a fact, each cord a report, couriers sprinting down roads with messages not on paper but in woven code. It was data storage without ink, information technology without letters. But empire is not only stone and numbers, it is food. And the Andes are cruel to farmers. High altitudes freeze crops, rains vanish unpredictably, rivers carve deep valleys. How do you feed 10 million people here? The Incas answered with terraces. Mountainsides were cut into steps, each step catching soil, water, and sun. Stone retaining walls absorbed heat by day and released it by night, protecting crops from frost. Thousands of varieties of potatoes, maize, quinoa, beans, and peppers thrived. In Moray, circular terraces created microclimates with temperature differences of up to 15 degrees Celsius. Scholars now believe Moray was an agricultural laboratory, a place where farmers tested crops for every corner of the empire. And they stored the harvests with equal brilliance. Across the mountains they built kulkas, granaries with ventilated walls and floors that kept food cool and dry. Potatoes were freeze-dried into chuno, maize dehydrated, quinoa stored for decades. Even in drought, armies and cities were fed. Some granaries still contain preserved food today. Compare this with us. In the 21st century, global food chains collapse when a single canal is blocked, or when a drought strikes California. The Incas, with no markets, no money, no trade networks as we know them, fed millions for centuries. But here lies the true genius of the Inca world. Their technology was not separate from their faith. It was their faith. The MITA system required every family to contribute labor, to build roads, terraces, temples. Could have been slavery. Could have sparked rebellion. Instead, it was sacred duty. Work was offered to the sun, to the gods of mountains and rivers. Festivals marked planting and harvest. Rope bridges were rebuilt with prayers. Cities rose not just as places to live, but as offerings to the cosmos. Ritual was their operating system. By embedding labor into religion, the Incas solved one of history's hardest problems: how to mobilize millions without wages, without rebellion, without collapse. People worked not because they were forced, but because they believed. Stand in Cusco. The city was not arranged at random. Its streets and plazas formed the shape of a puma, sacred animal of strength. Rivers ran along its spine. The Coricancha, temple of the sun, glittered with sheets of gold. Or climb to Machu Picchu. Its temple of the sun is aligned to solstices. At dawn on June 21st, light enters the window and strikes the altar precisely. This was no accident. It was a machine built to synchronize human time with cosmic time. The city itself became a clock, a stage for ritual, an amplifier of authority. Priests could speak from terraces and be heard by thousands. Ceremonies echoed against stone walls, magnified by design. Like the Maya ball courts, Inca plazas were instruments as much as architecture. And yet, what happens when the machine breaks? In 1532, Francisco Pizarro arrived with fewer than 200 men. The Inca Empire had just emerged from a brutal civil war between brothers Atahualpa and Huáscar. Smallpox and measles, diseases brought by Europeans before the Spaniards themselves arrived, had already killed thousands. At Cajamarca, Atahualpa was captured in a single day. The Spaniards demanded a ransom of gold and silver so vast it filled a room. The Incas delivered. Then the Spaniards strangled him anyway. The empire collapsed. Roads remained. Granaries remained. Temples remained. But the cosmic order had been broken.